Welcome to the KidMin podcast with Dr. Val and Dr. Virginia, where we talk about everything KidMin
and pull back the curtain on some of the surprises and challenges in children's ministry that nobody prepares you for.
I'm Dr. Val, and together we have over 45 years of experience in children's ministry.
I'm Dr. Virginia. Valerie and I met over 10 years ago in our doctoral program at Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary. We are excited to share with you all the great stuff that we have picked up over the years. We want to minister to you, the children's minister.
Welcome, friends. We are so excited that you are joining us today. We are ready to kick off for the fall. How about you, Dr. Virginia?
We're getting there. We're getting there. Lots of preparation. We're getting there.
So much. And that was really what we wanted to talk about today. We really wanted to jump in and talk a little bit about all of those things that we have to get ready for after VBS, after camp, after all of these summer events that we have.
Mm-hmm.
We have to think about how we are going to kick off for the fall and how to start preparing. You know, that's the thing about children's ministry is that there's never a downtime.
No.
When you
there's
leave,
always something next.
There's always, you're leaving one season, you're moving into the next. There's always that next thing that you have to prepare and plan for. So we never really get to take that deep breath and kind of go, oh, yay, we're set for a while. Because, now comes the excitement of promotion. It's checking in with your volunteers, finding out who's coming back for the fall, getting everything ready. So we just thought we would take a little bit of time today to go over all of the things that we are thinking about during this time of the year to get ready for fall kickoff. And I don't know, I'm hoping that we're not going to be super late on this because there may be some people that kick off in August.
Yes,
Dr. Virginia, do you usually prep to kick off in August for the fall or September or somewhere in between? What do you guys do?
We are usually August. We try to be, so it's kind of interesting. So at this church, we do our promotion Sunday for Sunday school and really all of our grade level ministries on the first Sunday of August.
Right.
And then our Wednesday night ministries coincide with school starting back. Because typically our kids go back to school on like a Wednesday or, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They typically go back like in the middle of the week. I don't know if they don't start on a Monday.
Right.
And so our Wednesday night ministries coincide with the school year. And so it's almost, for us, it's almost in some ways like a phased restart to where it's like we all move up in Sunday school on the first week. We maybe have one more summer event. And then we have maybe like a kickoff event for our Wednesday night ministries.
Right.
And even our adult ministries on Wednesday nights kind of restart in like a phased way. Like they'll kind of have like an introduction to the adult classes, and then they'll start the next week. And then Wednesday night meals will start the next week. So it's kind of interesting. It's almost like a phased process to move into the school year. But also it's nice because then it's not all changing all at once. Yes. So that can be helpful in its own way as well.
Right.
So
it is great when you can kind of ease back in because it's according to your area as to when you really have to start thinking about promotion and thinking about kicking off for the fall, because so many churches take like Sunday evenings, Wednesday evenings off during the summer. So it's getting your families back into the routine of being at church on Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights, if you have those programs, because if you have been taking the break for the summer, you kind of have to ease people back into this, routine of coming and things to do. And for me, we always did a lot of our promotion really in September because when most every location where I've been, school hasn't started until a little bit later into August. And so we were always kind of transitioning during August, and then our kickoffs would be in September. And one of the things that I always had to be really mindful of is that the material that we were using would start, the quarter would start in September.
Right.
And so, especially for those younger ages, when you have the kids going from pre-K into kindergarten or kindergarten into first, the material is really written in August for the older kindergartner. So if you
Right.
have a new kindergartner coming in to that material at the, that's set up for the older kindergartners, it can be a challenge for them to be able to do the work on the worksheet or to be able to
Right.
do some of the activities. So you have to really look at your publisher and how they set everything
Mhm.
up and what age groups they're writing for at certain times of the year, if that's an issue. So we've always been really mindful of that too. So the material that I typically used did the kickoff in September. So,
Mhm.
so we usually sort of slowly moved into our promotion time, but actually promoted in September, but we still did
Gotcha.
a lot of events in August to get things
To
going.
kind of
So
ease that in.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think now I would not be able to do that as easily because now most of the school systems are really starting a lot earlier, and that makes the
Yes.
promotion time a lot more
A
challenging.
lot sooner. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
for
it's
sure.
like, we'll have like on our Wednesday nights, we'll have sort of our final family fun night summer event,
Mhm.
which is a very popular one for us, which is a skate night just at a local skating rink. And one of the
Right.
things we do to encourage families to come is the first 50 students
Mhm.
get in free and the first 50 preschool and children
Oh,
in for
wow.
free.
Yeah.
So we just write that into our budget that we're going to
Mhm.
pay for 100, sets of skates for
Right.
teens and for kids. And so usually we have like a really phenomenal turnout at that event. We'll have 200-300 people,
Oh, wow.
coming out to the
Yeah.
skate night. And I personally abstain from skating because I already had one knee surgery and I don't need another.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
so, but for
Mhm.
us, that's a good momentum builder
Right.
at the end of the summer, going into fall, as we have this family fun night that our families really enjoy.
Right.
And then the following Wednesday is whenever we start kicking off our
Right.
fall ministries.
Right.
So that's
Right.
worked well for us.
Well,
So.
and I think that that's the key because for me, like I used to do these events for August. We always sort of did August summer nights
Mhm.
for Wednesday nights for the month of August. And each
Mhm.
Wednesday night we did a different activity, like what you're talking about,
Mhm.
whether or not we went skating or we did, some sort of special family movie night, or we did,
Mhm.
to get people back in the routine of being on
Mhm.
campus on Wednesday
Yeah.
nights, because
Yep.
that was
Yep.
so hard to kind of get going. And for us, again, the last church where I served, our Wednesday night suppers didn't start back until September. So,
Gotcha.
we would do, pizza nights, and we'd have, cookout night, and we do these kinds of fun
Yeah.
events. And then for me, our last Wednesday night to kick off was always organized mass chaos.
Yeah.
We would do a family
Whoopsie.
organized mass chaos night. And so for me, that was always it was a big draw because the kids loved to play that. They had, more than likely
Yes.
they played
We've
it at
done it
camp
at
that
camp.
summer. And so, but this one we sort of had the mini course for the preschool, and then we had the big kids course for that, and the families could participate. And then we kind of did that as our big kickoff night to lead into the next Wednesday night, actually having our programming where we were doing, I always did a little short Bible study before
Mhm.
each event for each of those
Mhm.
Wednesday nights, because, me, I never did any event without at least
Right.
doing a little devotional or
Right.
something.
Right. Right.
But we didn't jump back into our curriculum for
Right.
the fall until that next Wednesday night. And
Right.
so
Right.
that was
Yeah.
always a big deal. What kinds of things do you do for promotion Sunday? Like, do you have any special events and things that you do for that?
We really don't do a lot special on promotion Sunday,
Mhm.
just because there is a lot of activity, making sure
Right,
everyone knows where they're going, all that sort of thing.
right.
We do a lot of prep work leading up to promotion Sunday, I would say.
Yes.
One, communicating with parents about where their kids, will be going next. For those transitions between ministries. So for us, it's at first grade, moving from our preschool ministry up into our kids ministry, or at sixth grade, moving from kids to student ministry.
Right.
We have on the Saturday before, our church does a little orientation, a first grade and a sixth grade orientation,
Yeah.
where they have an opportunity to, come up, they'll eat a breakfast together. The first graders get to go into the kids' space, get to meet their teachers, see where their classroom is.
Yeah.
Same thing for the sixth grade. They see where their classrooms are. They, meet their teachers, get to spend some time with the youth pastor. And so we try to be very intentional, especially at those transitional years, in preparing kids and parents for what's next.
Right, right. Well, and that is one of those really neat things, because we always did sort of an open house as well. The preschool children and student ministries kind of worked together to have that night where we, did a little, had some little snacks and food. Parents could come in. We could really, we sort of tried to rotate the night. So if parents had high school students and middle school students, that they, could still, hear all of the key information for, to go over what we're going to be doing in the fall, what they needed to know, but still have that time, like you said, where they can walk around, they can see where they're going to bring their kids for the fall, for, Sunday school, for Wednesday night, for Sunday nights, they could meet the teachers. They would have that opportunity to sort of get a little bit of information. And I think those open house nights are a lot of fun, because it brings the families together. And again, it just gives you an opportunity to sort of give all that information. That was when I would hand out the forms that needed to be filled out for the fall, and get my permission things done and my medical forms done and all of those kinds of like housekeeping things that I needed to get taken care of. So it gave me that opportunity to kind of kick all that off. And so, but again, it's always nice to be able to have something, a little bit of fun to like bring people in, to get them to want to come in a little bit. Yeah. So it's kind of a neat thing to be able to do. And so now, do you have specific things that you do for kids going from, say, preschool into first grade or into kindergarten? It's according, I know every church is a little bit different on what they consider to be the start of kids ministry.
Right.
For all of my years, I always had kindergarten in with preschool. So the big promotion was going from kindergarten into first grade. So do you have some special things that you do for that?
So whenever our first graders go into their orientation, one of the things that they receive is a full text Bible. And so I know that's something that we've talked about before, is that we know that budgets are limited.
It's hard,
but
it's an important one.
Yeah. So in this case, the kids, these are Bibles for them to keep, and for them to use throughout their time in the children's ministry.
I always felt like Bibles were a huge thing for me. I made sure that I had that budget, but and many churches where I didn't have a budget at all, really. So I didn't have a budget for that. I usually would ask senior adult classes or adult classes if they would like to sponsor to purchase some Bibles, so that we would have that, or it would be a church budgeted item. And so we always try to do that, because I think presenting Bibles is really a huge deal. And I know for me, for example, if we look at the last church where I served, we did, when our kindergartners went into first grade, that was also their first time to be coming into church with their families to worship.
Okay.
And so because we had kids church for preschool through kindergarten, but at first grade, our kids went into the worship service with their families. And so we tried to make that day really big. So we would always kind of kick off with a special breakfast. We called it Pancakes with the Pastor, so that the first graders could really, get a chance to meet the pastor and to talk to him a little bit before they would go into service. And then during that service, they would come up on stage, they would get their full text Bibles, their big kid Bible. And they would also usually get a kids church bag, like a worship service bag. So that way they could have, something to have their Bible in, and to have maybe the little note sheets. Cause I always did the little note sheets for worship service for the kids to be able to follow along with the pastor and that kind of thing. So it was always kind of cool. I always felt like it kind of helped parents remember to send those things with the kids and to have those things with them if they had the little bags. And so we would usually, provide those for the kids. And so that was a big Sunday morning to have all of those kinds of things happening.
And that's nice too, just to have the kids in front of the congregation. That way people who don't necessarily have children in the children's ministry still sort of get this visual, of the kids, of, the activity that's going on. It's just nice, because it's almost like a way to it's just sort of putting the children's ministry on display for the congregation, for people who aren't necessarily connected.
Right.
So I like that.
Well, and we even tried to do that Bible presentation at the churches previous that I had where I did have children's worship. So that the kids did not go into the worship service with their families. We still tried to do that first grade Bible presentation in front of the sanctuary again, just so that they were aware of the first graders, so that they got that, but so they could think about the kids ministry, so they could see what we were doing. And so we still made that a special Sunday for the worship service, even if we had a children's worship that the kids went to. So, I think it's important to still coordinate as much as you can, whether you have a children's worship or not, having the kids in the worship service with their families on special occasions, but on certain things where the families, like you said, that don't have kids, or the grandparents, maybe they can have that opportunity to see what you're doing in your ministry, because that's really how you're going to have your volunteers become a part of your ministry, is they're going to see what you're doing. And they're going to get excited about your ministry. And if you're constantly siloed off, where the kids never come into the worship service until they go into middle school, then, you don't really have that opportunity for the congregation to see your children's ministry. So I think that's an important thing to do. So,
But one of the things that we do as like an outreach to the community that my current church does, my previous church did, is donating backpacks, school supplies, shoes, and haircuts to kids going back to school. That's something that I've really enjoyed being a part of and seeing at our churches, just those opportunities, and we've seen it done different ways. My last church would just, from doing it over the years, kind of had an idea. We would buy a certain amount of supplies and people would just come. And they would just, get their backpack, get school supplies, get some, toiletries, get a haircut, even get shoes. We had a family in the church who that was like their thing. They loved throughout the year getting shoes on sale and then just giving them all away at this huge event. My current church gets the names of families from like particular schools. And then so it's sort of like you adopt a child or adopt a family and get the items for that particular family. So, there's different ways of doing it, but that has always been something that I've really enjoyed, and that I think has always been just such a really great outreach to the community around this time of year as well.
Well, and I think that that's what the back to school kickoff events can really do, is to highlight how your church can partner with an elementary school or a high school or a preschool in your community. And really find ways that you can minister to them, to do special things for the teachers, to do a special prayer night, to be able to do those kinds of things where you collect school supplies and you collect backpacks and you collect those things that they're going to need for you to be able to donate. So even if you can do like a family cookout night, or do some sort of a family event during the summer, where the entrance is to bring an item that can be donated, to bring the school supplies, to bring the backpack, to bring those kinds of things. And so, every community has the ability to do different things, but it's that opportunity that you have to connect your church to the school community in your area. And so that's just really a huge event. One of the things that I always got the kids together to do during the summer is that we had a ministry that we partnered with all year long to do different things for the schools in our community. But during the summer, we would try to go one night, because they would always have those opportunities where they could fill backpacks, so that our kids could actually do a service project. We would take donations when we would go, but we would also spend that night filling backpacks or organizing school supplies, putting things in different orders and that kind of thing, so that your kids had this chance to help a ministry prep for helping kids start back to school. And so finding those kinds of things to be able to do, I think, are really fun events for your kids.
And one of the other things that we do off campus is we will go prayer walk the exterior of the schools. We're not like breaking inside schools or anything, but like go to our local schools and go prayer walk them. And so, we'll send teams of, 3 or 4 families, to each different school, all meet up at the church and then go out to different schools and prayer walk schools. And so that's also another thing that we do this time of year that I really
Right.
enjoy, and that we've seen just surprising fruit from. We had a particular group, prayer walking at a school, and so they're circled around the flagpole praying, and the principal comes outside and like joins them, like sort of breaks into the circle and joins
Yeah.
them and like
Oh,
prays
that's
along with
awesome.
them and just expresses her gratitude for this church group being there praying for her school before
Right.
before the school year starts. And so,
I think that's great. I
yeah.
miss the days. Of course, I'm sure some communities still allow you to do it, but back years ago, I was always able to go have lunch with my kids at schools. And
Yeah.
so I would like rotate to
Yeah.
all the different schools where I had kids. And now,
Mhm.
obviously, for security
For a
reasons,
lot
they
of
don't
reasons.
really allow that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
So finding other ways that you can connect with the schools in your church
Mhm.
community to be able to
Mhm.
provide, but still a lot of times they would let us bring donuts for teachers or,
Yeah.
or like you
Teacher
said,
work days,
to
bring a
pray
breakfast.
outside,
Yeah.
on the campus, even though we can't go in the classrooms to do that anymore. But,
Mhm.
it was all of those kinds of things that we would still try to do to connect, because I
Mhm.
always felt like it was so great when our church could reach out to the schools,
Mhm.
because I think the teachers appreciate it and the families appreciate it. And so it was just always a fun thing to be able to do. Well, along with all of the promotions and the finding volunteers and the getting everything ready with curriculum and all of the other fun things that you have to be planning right
Yeah.
now, it's also that time of year to start thinking about the big events that are going to be coming up for the rest of the year. And one of those being your fall festival or your trunk or treat, whatever you choose to do during the fall. I am a big proponent of having some sort of fall big event, whether it's a fall festival or
Yeah.
whether or not you do a trunk or treat or whether you do something actually on the 31st to give parents some options. Whatever your church decides to come together to do, I think it's really, for me, it was always the second big event for the year, VBS
Yes.
being the largest. But our fall festival events were always, really the second place where we would receive the most visitors, where we
Mhm.
could reach out to the community and get to know people and
Mhm.
to talk with people that we would not see any other time during the year. And
Yes.
so it gave us a lot of great opportunities. And so I'm a big fan of fall events.
Yes, me too, just because I love fall, and it's
Yeah.
kinda hard being here in Florida because I miss real fall.
Right, right.
You know,
Miss the trees
everything
changing and the
changing,
leaves
yes,
falling.
yes.
Yeah.
So because it's like everything's still green and it's still like 90 degrees, but, I do still love fall myself,
Yes.
and same thing is exactly what you're saying. I would say our fall events numerically are bigger than VBS because then we'll have 3,000 people on our church campus for fall
Right.
events.
Right.
So numerically it's bigger, although VBS is different in that, you have kids for longer and over
Right.
several days. And
Right.
so, you know, it is definitely numerically our largest outreach event for our church.
Right.
And so being intentional about, capturing people's information, sharing the
Mhm.
gospel, doing intentional follow up. And so
Right.
we have a whole episode just dedicated
We do.
to planning fall events.
Just fall events. It's at our 11th episode last year, so we did it really early on, and so I'd almost be afraid to listen to it now, and just the fact that we were still so new, although I don't know that we've gotten, I don't know that as much has changed, but hopefully it
Yeah.
still has very pertinent information for you and very practical
And we
information
can
for
link it in the
how
comments,
you can.
right? Like, we can still,
I
yeah,
can do that.
that's a
I can
thing,
link that.
right?
Yeah, that's a thing. I think that's a thing. I think I can do that. But we'll have the link for you there. And, but it really hopefully will give you more specifics on how to prepare for the fall, how to get ready for
Mhm.
any different. And we talked about different kinds of events as
We
well, like
did,
what
and we
different kinds
talked
of things that
about
we've done over
recruiting
the years.
volunteers and safety
Yeah.
and security and planning activities, and we talked
All
about,
of
like,
that.
all of it.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
it's a great one to check out if you're still on the fence about planning a fall event, if you're still not sure what you want to do, it would be a great one for you to go back and listen to and to get some ideas, but also to kind of think through how to get ready for it, because it really is huge. But there
Mhm.
are so many other events that happen, towards the end of the year that you do have to start kind of thinking about, is if you are going to do that kind of thing, if you're going to do some sort of a Thanksgiving special event, like a special Thanksgiving, because a lot of churches where I served, we would do like a Wednesday night Thanksgiving dinner where we would do something special with the kids and do all of that. And then, of course, Christmas will just be around the corner.
No, it's like we just finished VBS and now we're talking about Christmas.
I know. Well, I am not a big person. Like for me, Christmas in July is not a thing. I don't like to do Christmas outside of Christmas, but you do have to start thinking about what type of event, because honestly, for me, I tried to have all of those dates and all of those events ready for the fall kickoff for when we had that open house for parents, so that I had a sheet that said, this is when our fall festival is. This is when our Thanksgiving dinner is. This is when our Christmas event, our family Christmas event is. And we actually go into great detail about events for families at Christmas in episode 19.
Yes.
Which I can link down
You
here.
can also put in the show notes. Yeah.
So that you can go back and kind of check that out when you're ready to start thinking about it too. Because again, we go over the same kinds of things: security, material, different types of events. What kinds of things can you do? Because it really is important to have some special things at Christmas for families. And I love doing Advent things for families as well. So, and you really do have to start prepping that super early to have that ready for the beginning of December. It is going to come upon us faster than we are even expecting.
Thinking about it.
So, so those are things to really start thinking through and planning now, to get your ducks in a row, to at least know when you're going to be doing things, how, so you can start publicizing those events and let families know. And also to start recruiting volunteers, because families' calendars are going to get booked up really quickly.
So fast.
And so that means your volunteers' calendars are going to get booked up really quickly. So you want to get on their calendars as early as you possibly can. Right. And so, because that can be very difficult when you're trying to find volunteers to help you with these events. So the earlier you can give them dates, I mean, that's really just going to work out to your benefit.
Yeah. And we just last week, we did our staff calendaring and staff planning, where our ministerial staff sat down with the master church calendar, which is digital, but, we were looking at it and just making sure all of our events for the next 6 months are calendared. Right. And then we went another 6 months out to go for a whole year, just to kind of do a preliminary, getting things on the calendar. And so, so our next 6 months are pretty much set.
Oh yeah.
And then the 6 months after that are, pretty well there as well.
They're laid out. Yeah. Yes. You really do. And I've worked with a lot of children's ministers over the years, because I know how overwhelming things can become. And I know how difficult it is when you're in the middle of everything to be able to focus ahead. But again, it is so to your benefit if you can set yourself out a day for planning for the year, so that you can lay out your calendar, so that you can think through things. Because I do know that it's incredibly stressful for ministers who are not as great on the administrative side to really not know what's coming next, to not being able to prepare their families, to not be able to prepare your volunteers, to get your materials ordered and ready. Those kinds of things are really important. And so if that's really not your thing, which, everybody has strengths and weaknesses, but if you can find somebody in your church that loves administration and loves that planning, that can help you do that, that is going to be a key person for you to get together with, because it really does benefit you greatly to be able to be planned for your year, to know what's coming up.
Right. Because before we even had that all staff meeting, the children's director and I sat down and we're looking at, okay, when are we going to do our VBS training dates in the spring? When are we going to do our general volunteer training in the spring? So we sat down and really planned out, the rest of our year for the preschool and children's ministry before even coming to this big staff meeting. And you're right. It's nice to sit and be able to think about that with another person, because you can bounce those ideas off. You can remind each other of things that you may not have been thinking about, or that may not have been on your radar. And so, so it is, it's a lot of, advance prep to get ready for these things and to do calendaring, 6 months or a year in advance. But it's kind of the whole, ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Like
Right.
doing all of that work and investing all of that on the front end makes the back end go much more smoothly.
It's really so worth it.
worth
And you know
it.
what? I
Yeah.
have to say, I think over the years, sometimes I would let myself feel guilty if I thought that I had the time to be able to do that.
Mm.
Like it's
Mhm.
that sense of, oh, there's so many other things I need to do. I can, I need to put that off.
Mhm.
And so it's really reminding yourself that that is a key part of your
Mhm.
responsibility. And
Mhm.
so it really needs to be something that you allow yourself the grace to do, to be
Right.
able to say, okay, I need this time where I am focusing on the planning and getting things prepared. And so I might need to go off campus for a day so that I'm not interrupted. I might need to have this opportunity to spend some time with somebody at lunch for an extended period of time where we can sit down and be away from the building and away from the constant, kind of people that are constantly needing things and that are constantly wanting to just jump in. And I just need to ask you this one question, but it's not because I know that there are some who feel like, oh, I have to be in my office. I have to be doing, but it's really important that we take that time.
Absolutely. Because it's not just, yes, this next Sunday is coming, but
Right.
every Sunday until Jesus comes back is coming.
Right.
And
It's never
so,
going to, and there's never going to be, if you're waiting for a slow time
right.
to be able to plan, it's never
Not going to
going to
happen.
come. You have to be diligent
Got to
to,
carve it out.
yeah, and you have to put that in your calendar and really make that work. And so,
Yeah.
and if you, like I said, if you struggle with that, really there are going to be people in your church that their strength is organizing and scheduling, and it's okay to go to them and say, you know what, I really need some help here. How do I set up a calendar so that I can have time to plan and time to set up? Don't feel, we can't do everything,
Right.
and we can't always have every strength that's needed, because children's ministry, we've talked about this before, it's so vast.
Right.
And there's so many different types of personalities and different skills and different gifts that you need for it. And so if administration and organization is not yours, don't worry, because you have other things that you're giving to the ministry, but it will benefit you to find that person who does have that as a strength and make them your partner.
And we do people a disservice when we don't allow them to use their God-given strengths and gifts and abilities in the ministry. We do the ministry a disservice whenever we try to do everything, and then we do other people a disservice because God gave them that ability for a purpose. And so let's let them serve within their areas of gifting and their areas of strength. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So don't be overwhelmed. Just take that deep breath, and you can just move forward with all the things that you've got coming this year. It's going to be a very exciting year, and God is going to bless your ministry in amazing ways. It's just one step at a time.
Amen. Amen.
Well, we just thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that this information has been helpful for you. We hope that it's been encouraging for you. We just ask, if you haven't yet, that you would subscribe to our YouTube account, that you would follow us on Podbean and Spotify and Apple Podcasts, that you will check out our blog that we've got going this year, and hopefully there'll be some more information on there. We would love to hear from you. Please comment, please send us messages. Let us know how we can better serve you. That's what we would love to do this fall. And so we just thank you so much for listening and spending some time with us, and we will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.